Gil Martin here, and welcome everybody to today's episode of the Daily Packers Post, where we bring you in-depth daily coverage of your Green Bay Packers. We have new videos dropping every day, Monday through Friday, so hit the like button and subscribe so you never miss an episode. Today we have a special guest. It's my pleasure to welcome Jason Logan from Covers and Covers.com. Jason, welcome to the show. I know you are a senior betting analyst. You cover sports from a betting perspective predominantly, and we're going to talk a little Packers right now. Let's start with the Micah Parsons trade. How big of an impact does this have on the Packers from a betting perspective?
Yeah, it was huge when the Micah trade went down. And even before it happened, you could see it impacting the betting markets. I am a Dallas Cowboys fan, so it stings, especially for me. But even during the middle of all his contract drama, we saw the Cowboys odds, at least for that week one game against Philly, start to drop. They were 6.5. And then when the Parsons rumblings started coming up, they moved to a 7-point underdog. And then after that, they were to 7.5 and 8.5, which doesn't seem like a lot, but a significant move for a defensive player. And generally, there have only been a handful in my 20 years of covering NFL betting. There's only been a handful of defensive players that are actually worth maybe a point to the point spread. And we saw that move with the look ahead lines for both the Packers and Dallas. Once that trade went through, we saw the Packers jumping up a point in a lot of their games, and Dallas being demoted a point to a 1.5 in a lot of their games, and totals also seeing a big dip. And then also too, we saw the sports books adjust the futures odds, those odds that you can bet on for, say, to win the Super Bowl or to win the NFC. And we saw the Packers flying up the board. Of course, Dallas dropped like a rock. They weren't that high up anyway, but the Packers jumped up, and then after a very successful start to the season, they're even far further now. So the Parsons deal did have a big impact, bigger than I think was warranted. But we had a lot of people jumping on that based on news and kind of a knee-jerk reaction to those sort of things, saying, "Well, the Packers have Parsons now; they're a complete team." So, and we've seen them play very, very well so far.
As somebody who has watched Micah Parsons with Dallas, what kind of an impact do you see him having on the Green Bay defense? I mean, we've seen it early in the season, but he's not even at 100% yet after missing training camp.
Yeah. And I mean, he's kind of been on a pitch count for the first couple of games. And I think, we're finally going to see him healthy here over the next 2 or 3 games, especially they've got that big matchup on Sunday Night Football against Dallas in week 4, and everyone's going to be watching that as the Micah Bowl. But for him, I mean, obviously the sacks and the pressures and the disruption up front, those things are very, very evident. And those are, third and longs, those big plays to be able to stop teams from converting. He creates a lot of chaos up front, which can then lead to hurry throws or errant throws and turnovers. But also, too, because the defense has to be responsible for him the offense, has to be responsible on spotting him and making sure that he's blocked and double teamed and accounted for on every snap. It lifts up everyone else around him, much the same way you would have, say, a star receiver drawing double coverage. Wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 is going to see a little softer coverage. So very much so. And we're seeing that from some of these Packers players is there's kind of a rising tide with this Parsons deal.
I mean, one of the things I saw in week 2 against the Commanders, Keyshawn Nixon broke up 5 passes. He broke up 7 all year last year, and he had a pretty good year last year. I mean, part of the reason for that, I would think, is the impact of Micah Parsons, because he knows he doesn't have to cover for 4 or 5 seconds on any given play.
And I like the way that the Packers have been using it too. They are kind of moving him around a little bit too, which is something Dallas didn't always do. And then the problem with Parsons too is that he had so many coordinators coming through, and under that Dan Quinn defense, that's when he really thrived. And last year with Zimmer, he didn't quite have the same punch. He was hurt for a lot of the year. And I think the Packers are using him in a very, very smart way, moving him around. Like I said, making the offense go, where's Parsons? Where the hell is Parsons at? Oh, he's over here. Okay. Then he has to call in. Okay, we need extra blocking here, or they have to change the play, or whatever it is that they have to do to account for that guy. When he can come in and just scramble a QB's brains like that before the ball is even snapped, that's a big thing.
Who are some of the Packers players on defense that you think will benefit most from the addition of Parsons?
I mean, you're looking at anyone across the line right now. the big thing about them is that they're not having to blitz a lot. They're able to get pressure with just the front four. And so because of that, the linebackers are able to be a lot more fluid, read run, spy on a QB that might be able to run, and then drop into coverage. They're playing a lot more zone this year, and that's paying dividends as well too, being able to just get pressure with the front four. So I think everyone across that line, Gary and Wooden and Wyatt's looked very, very good. He looked very good against the Commanders as well too, because of Parsons. So I think everyone on that line, and then the secondary gets, the secondary kind of gets bailed out sometimes because there is all that chaos happening up front, and there are a lot of rushed throws and hurried throws, and quarterbacks don't necessarily have that time for a downfield look because the pressure is coming, whether it is coming from Parsons or someone else. So it's a trickle down effect. I think everyone on that defense really benefits, but you'll see the numbers, like you said, these swatted down passes, QB hits, QB hurries. You're going to see a lot of those stats stack up for the guys around Parsons on that line.
Sticking with the defense, Edwin Cooper had a really strong rookie year, only started 4 games, still made the all-rookie team. The guy makes plays. How do you see him in year 2, and how does Parsons help him?
He's been pretty solid so far. Just looking at some of his numbers here, his tackles are way up. And he's getting in on a lot of those plays. They're like I said, with Parsons being able to move around, and then with the linebackers being freed up and not having to blitz so much, there's a lot of options that they can do with Cooper and that linebacking core. So they're able to move him into coverage. They can move him watching the running backs, watching the QBs on a QB spy, like I said, with mobile quarterbacks. So I think the opportunities for those linebackers to impact the game in various different ways is greater because of what Parsons and that line can do now up front with just 4 men coming at you.
Flipping it over to the offensive side of the ball, Jordan Love now in his 3rd year as a starter. What do you look to see from him this year? And how much were the injuries he was dealing with last year a part of the reason for his struggles?
Yeah, injuries are always tough to overcome, and we need to remember too, he's overcoming one right now at the start of the year. He had the thumb, was a minor thumb surgery during camp. He was behind schedule. You lose a receiver like Reed out there. Watson's still not healthy. So, the injuries are still, I think, maybe holding back this offense so far. They haven't really been able, they've been very efficient, but they haven't been able to connect on those big plays yet. And I think that's part of the timing as well. Golden's been looking pretty good so far. I think there will be opportunities, especially when they get to play Dallas at Dallas, which is a fast indoor track, and that secondary for the Cowboys is already banged up and got absolutely exposed against the Giants. So I think there's a ton of room for this passing offense to grow with Jordan Love, and especially as his hand gets healthier. And as he gets more kind of cohesion with his receivers out there, and then if they get a Watson, they get a Reed back, then you're back to having that slew of options, and that makes them very, very tough to game plan for. And that's kind of been the Green Bay Packers in the last 2 years, is like they don't really have a number one receiver, which makes it very tough to figure out who you're going to cover.
How about Tucker Kraft? What is your impression of him, and how good can he be?
Yeah, always nice to have a big body out there. What's he, about 6'5"? Great red zone target. You get in there, you just really have to jump ball to it, and then we've seen that so far. He's had success scoring. In the modern day NFL right now, these tight ends aren't just blocking tight ends; they have to be able to run routes and get open. And he has an opportunity here, especially like I said, with the depth of the receiving core. He's going to get bad matchups against safeties. He's going to get bad matchups against linebackers. And if he can continue to develop as a route runner and a pass catcher, then he could be a Pro Bowl tight end very quickly.
Jordan Love has done a good job lately of avoiding turnovers. Hasn't thrown an interception in a long time after the first 2 games of this season. How does that affect the way that betting lines look at the Packers?
I mean, those are game-changing plays when you have a team that is turning it over. So say like a Tua Tagovailoa, who, when he's on, he's very efficient and they move the chains, but he has this dark side that could absolutely just turn your bet on its ears. And we've seen that early on from Miami, just momentum killing turnovers. But when you have an offensive line that's protecting Jordan Love right now, he has one of the lower pressure rates against, and he's able to find those receivers. I mean, there's definitely a steadiness in wagering on the Packers and less variance when they're not turning it over. Like some of the other QBs in the league will. There's maybe a less of a high risk, high reward type play with the Packers, and you don't get those interceptions or bad tosses kind of blowing up your bets.
As far as the running game is concerned, a little bit of a slow start the first couple of weeks for Josh Jacobs. How concerned are you about that? And how much of it do you think may have to do with the offensive line injuries?
Part of it is the offensive line injuries. Like if we look at them right now, 19th in run block win rate. So, not fantastic, but you do want to be able to make sure, especially with the way that Green Bay is winning games right now, they're getting up quick, and you want to be able to run the football in those second halves efficiently. Not only just to maintain possession, but also kind of chew up a little bit of clock and limit the opponent's opportunities to come back. So the injuries on the offensive line, the injuries to Jacobs, those are things that are concerning. But when you have a passing game that could be clicking, and especially once Jordan Love gets into that deep, more of those deep strikes and stuff like that, defenses are going to have to respect that. And I think it's going to open up a lot more space for the running game. So I think it is something to come as guys get healthier. And then as this passing game is able to stretch the field a little better.
Matthew Golden, obviously first round pick for the Packers since 2002 at wide receiver. How soon do you think he can be that wide receiver one that he's eventually projected to be?
I mean, the opportunity is there, especially with the injuries that have fallen on this receiving core, and the fact that they didn't really Watson, Reed, guys that would have a great week and then disappear the next week. I mean, the door is open for him to have and to take that number one spot. And like I said, I think developing more chemistry and timing with Jordan Love, because Love missed some time in camp. They didn't have that time to kind of, find that cohesion, find that downfield chemistry and momentum. And I think just the more he gets to play with Love, the more practices they get in, I think we'll see that because he is a very, very explosive player.
We're still early in the season, but as of right now, what is the Packers over under win total, and what do you think the key is for them to exceed it?
Sure. So I'll have to check their adjusted win total.
Okay.
If you want to bear with me for a second.
Not a problem.
I can pull that up. I didn't have the adjusted win total up. I think it was 9. I think 9.5 was their win total on the season. And some places will have an adjusted win total up. Just bear with me, Gil. Now, I had liked their under on the win total. That was before the Parsons trade. And even with the Parsons trade, I looked at their schedule, and their schedule was very, very tough. Just one second. I have about 1,000 tabs open, and so my computer is like a hamster running on the wheel here. Yeah. That doesn't want to open. Okay, hang on. I got to assume that their win total is probably up to about 10.5. You probably got another, because I mean, those two home games versus Detroit, they were favorites in both games. Those look like they should have been winnable games there. Weekly specials, game specials. Every place has a different place that they hide their win totals here. Let's go. Packers, Tampa Bay. Where are you at? Green Bay, Houston, Atlanta, Jacksonville. I'll tell you, Chicago's down to 6.5.
Oh, wow. Fading fast.
Okay, so here's a look now. Odds are going to vary at different sports books. But right now, DraftKings Sportsbook has the total at 11.5 for the Packers, and the over is priced at -170, which means if you wanted to win $100, you would have to wager $170. So there's a big lean to the probability of 12 wins right now. A lot of that has to do with not necessarily what they've done on the field so far, but also action that came in on them. And when the Parsons deal hit, everyone and their dog was betting the over 9.5, and that sprung it to 10.5. So there's a lot of liability already on them to go over their win total. And so when I see a pricing like this as high as -170 on the over 11.5, what it tells me is that the sports books, they don't want any more over action on their win total. They want to generate a little bit of under money. And the under right now is +140. So if you wagered $100 on the Green Bay Packers and they finished with 11 wins or less, you would win $140. So when I look at the pricing there, it does reflect what they've done so far on the field and 2 very good quality wins over Detroit and Washington. But it also reflects how much action they've already taken on the over and how much they're saying no mas to any over action right now. If you want to bet the over 11.5, you got to pay. So,
and what would it take? What are the keys to them getting over the 11.5?
It's going to be a slog of a season. Now I don't think it does them any favors with this bye in week 5. I bet them against Cleveland. I think they could beat Cleveland. They go into Dallas. I definitely think they can beat Dallas. That game could be a shootout too, because Dallas and Dak Prescott and those guys, they're scoring a ton of points. I will say that there are easier games on the schedule. Some of the easier teams that they play are road games. So they like Cleveland. They have to go to Cleveland. Cleveland has a tough defense, and just going on the road alone is tough to win in the NFL. You have to go to Arizona. Arizona may not be scaring anyone. They're 2-0 right now, but you have to go to Arizona. The Giants, you go to the Giants in week 11. That's one of your easier games, but it's on the road. So that's kind of stacking up against them already. And then the back half of the season is very, very challenging. I mean, beyond a week 9 game with Carolina, you have Philadelphia at home on Monday Night Football. Then you go to the Giants. Then you have Minnesota at home, Detroit, Chicago, Denver, Chicago, Baltimore, Minnesota. So you have playoff teams and division rivals all coming down the pike there. Only 2 home games in the last 6 weeks of the season, which is a big thing. And why I was leaning under on their win total of 9.5, because that frozen tundra edge that they normally would have in December, it's not going to be there in that home stretch of the season as much. So they're going to have to go on the road. They're not going to have the elements working for them. So they're going to have to really get road tough, and they're going to have to grind out some games on the road. And there's going to be grinding games against Arizona on the road. There's going to be grinding games against the Giants. I think this stop in Cleveland in week 3 will be a big testament to see how tough they are, because Cleveland hits hard. Might not have great offense, but they are a brutal defense to play against. And I think that will go a long way in telling how Green Bay is going to play out here. But a lot of road games coming up. They got to show some grit there to get over the 11.5.
Going to be interesting to see. Jason, why don't you tell our viewers where they could find your work and how they could follow you on social media?
Yeah, you can come to covers.com. We've got everything for NFL betting, but it's pretty much any sport under the sun. We've got it covered there. You can read my weekly NFL Underdogs column. I pick 3 teams that are getting the points. And then I also host the Sharp 600 podcast, which is a 10-minute, what I say, high protein, low fat podcast. We talk about all things NFL. We try to stuff as much wagering goodness into those 600 seconds as we can. And then you can follow me on Twitter or X @CoversJLo.
All right, Jason, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Gil.